Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. If you'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we do not have a quorum up here tonight, so we won't be doing.
For the BZA.
Oh,
We have a quorum for PC.
Okay. Oh, I didn't see you come in. So since you're here, first thing that we're going to do is revisit the election of officers for the Planning Commission. So
Open the floor for nominations.
So we're going to open the floor for nominations.
I nominate Doug Bignell.
For?
President. Chair.
Okay.
Whatever.
I nominate Doug for chair or co-chair.
John, go.
Well, you already got a motion for chair, so
I
just
respect
second.
you.
Okay, so I'll second Doug's.
Okay.
So all those in favor of Doug taking over as chairman, signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Okay.
Now, do you take over now, or do I go ahead and continue with,
No.
do we have to do vice chair and?
Yes, and then secretary, since I have been secretary, I can't do both, so we'll have to, so let's do vice chair first.
Okay. So we need nominations for vice chair.
I nominate Dave.
Okay,
I'll second Dave.
All right.
All those in favor of Dave for vice chair? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Okay.
And then we need nominations for secretary. Oh, you're not a.
Well, you can be. All right, I nominate Diana Anderson as secretary for Planning Commission. All right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, so we've got everybody.
Very good.
Want to trade me seats?
Sure.
Or, Diane, you go over and I'll go over. How about that?
That's a fancy pen. That's a fancy pen. All right, well, thank you for everyone being here tonight, and sorry for the confusion around things, and obviously with the cold weather, we felt like it was safer to move everything over to a much warmer day, which fortunately we had today. So we want to revisit our conversations that we've been having the last couple of years on annexation and the process of doing that. So we've had this map on the wall since about October of 2019 and talking about it over and over again. With changes from that map, though, we did actually do an annexation in 2021. So one of the properties that's listed on there got annexed then. That property, well, two properties essentially. One already belonged to the town, that was our wastewater treatment plant, and then Mr. James Penner's property. We annexed those.
Can you speak up a little bit? He's having a hard time.
Oh, yeah, sorry. All right, so we annexed two properties back in 2021 off of that map. One of them was the town's. We had our wastewater treatment plant was outside of our town limits, so we annexed it in. And then Mr. James Penner's property right next to that was also annexed in back in 2021. So we've been looking at this possibility of continuing that process of annexing more. So one of the things that we wanted to know, though, is what kinds of opinions did people who might be affected by annexation have with regards to getting annexed in. So that's really the purpose of us sending out the letters, the invites, that kind of stuff to get you here, so that you would tell us, here's why I don't want to be annexed, here's why I think it would be all right, or ask questions. I don't understand, why am I being annexed, or why is this a need for the town to do this? All right, so not really necessarily any order that I'm looking for, but I would like, for people to kind of, come up and just tell us your name, your address, and then give us a few minutes of your insights or questions, that kind of stuff on annexation. Okay, so who would like to go first? Go ahead, sir. Come on up to the podium. Just give us, again, your name, your address, and then your thoughts on this.
So, my name is Alex Kirichenko, and I am at 5328. And my initial question was, since that map has changed, what number has now been annexed so that I have reference?
20. Oh,
Six.
goodness.
It's shown on there as
Is that-
annexed already.
Oh, is it? Okay.
It's on this sheet.
Oh, okay.
Yours did not get annexed. So on, 26 did not get annexed in. That's Mr. Brenneman's farm. And then, but the,
That southernmost yellow shaded area there is what's been annexed.
Oh, okay. So
West
that's-
of 26, north of 24.
Got it.
no, that's been in the town for years, that part. So
That's
that
your
is
wastewater-
part of,
that's
that
your
is,
wastewater treatment plant. West of 26, north of 24, on your sheet here, Doug.
Oh, okay.
yeah, see, because 24 is actually Mr. Edmondson's property, and that's not even highlighted on this map. So,
She has a question, sir. She indicated it's purple. Why is it purple?
the,
It's number 24.
oh, on that one over there?
Why is it purple? She's asking.
That's the
That's
town's,
the-
town's property.
That's the town's property.
Right,
Right.
okay.
So it's just because it's, belongs to the municipality.
And then over on this one, it's smaller, they just highlight.
Yeah, they just blew it up so you could see it better over there. I'll go look at this.
It's not very clear, whoever.
So the numbers don't correlate from your picture necessarily to this exhibit.
The 21 was, that's Mr. Penner's property also. This, Mr. Penner owns this one and he owned this one. So 21 got it annexed, okay? Brooke, this is your property,
I'm aware, thank you.
okay? And then this is Mr. Brenneman's, and then this is the town's property that got annexed there.
All right.
So that strip of land has already been annexed.
Okay. So unfortunately, we had moved in, I think, in between letters. So we had purchased in 22, so fortunately, we caught wind of this and I'm happy to come in and talk. So in your previous correspondence to the residents, I don't want to have to rehash what you've already given out as the pros and cons yet, unless it hadn't been, and maybe enlighten us on what the pros and cons were. And if they're in the letter, then I can get a copy of it and read it, and I don't need to address that with you and the board.
Well, I know, like 5 years ago, we had, a very small list of here's pros and cons.
Okay.
the planning commission has kind of felt like that wasn't enough information. It wasn't adequate to
Okay.
that. And so our point of view now is for us to listen.
Got it.
So I would rather not tell you
Right, and I don't.
what you want to think.
No.
I want to hear from you.
Okay.
Why do you not want to be annexed, or why do you think this might be okay? So,
Oh, so, and again, not seeing the correspondence, I'm just gonna infer, is that if we do become annexed, does that mean that we're then on city utilities? Or do we maintain our existing wells and septic system?
good question.
And if we do become part of the utilities, are we then required to tap into what I would imagine is a water line down County Road 0 for us to then attach to water and sewer? Was that part of the initial plan, that water would be running all the way, I guess, all the way to 40 potentially, if we're gonna annex all of that, but we're probably just doing it in small bits right now. So does that mean that water utilities would be stretched all the way to 40, and then when those properties lower on County Road 0 are annexed, then they can then tap into that pipe when it's already in the ground? Or is that part of the give and take?
Yeah, anytime a municipality goes through an annexation process, they have to lay out, here are the services that we're gonna provide to you, and
Okay.
here's the expectation of, what,
Got it.
you're gonna participate in. The town only has a wastewater utility, so, unfortunately, we do not have municipal water. So
Okay.
you wouldn't get that. So
Okay.
you'd still use your well.
Okay.
As far as, what a lot of our discussions have been is you have a working septic tank, we're not gonna force you to not use that.
Okay.
But in the future, if your septic tank ever stops working,
Right,
then we would want you to tie into our utility at that time.
yeah,
But we're not gonna mandate immediately after you annex here, you gotta,
Okay.
switch over to this
Got
kind
it.
of thing.
and I think that's fair. However, I'm guessing that whatever contractor you're using to run the pipe, it would be advantageous for us to tap in at that point, as opposed to then having our own contractor come back out and then tap into the pipe at that time, right?
I mean, it's gonna be a cost either way.
Okay,
So, I don't know, the logistics of that part of it, but
Okay.
it might be
got it.
more, there are certainly experts out there on that kind of stuff that could answer that question better than I could. I
Okay,
know Mr. Monday's here, he could probably tell you much better about
okay,
converting from a septic tank to hooking into a main
Right.
line for a sewer and that kind of stuff, and what
Okay.
the difference is. and
so
those
maybe
kind of
this
things,
meeting is really more, again, exchanging ideas, and there really hasn't been a plan per se to decide that, sewer systems are gonna be run, or sewer lines are gonna be run at this point in the meeting, or at this point in the process, right?
Right, I
Right.
mean, there's already a sewer pipe that's pretty close to your house right now, cause the library is using our wastewater treatment plant,
Got
so,
it, okay.
so you're not very far from the library,
Okay,
so that would not be hard to extend that.
okay, so do you think that in that case, the sewer system would be on the east side of the road, and then our piping would go underneath the street? Or would they bring it back over to the west side of the road to then connect to us and work their way south? And again, maybe that's more.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of laterals that cross streets,
Okay.
so, on the street I live on, the sewer pipe goes down one side of it, and so, but houses from both sides tie into it,
Oh, okay.
so that's
Perfect.
not a problem.
And do you anticipate that they would run like city lights through the street as well?
We have, we have this, the streetlights that would be part of the service,
Okay.
that would,
And so they would
be
they
looked
would
at.
extend the lights down the
Mhm.
street or down the road? Is
Dur-
that kind of the plan
Yeah,
too?
during the process back in 2019, when the annexation process was a formal process, which we are not in, this is just a,
Informal meeting?
hey, is
Okay.
anybody, what do we want to do here? There will be basically a fiscal plan that has to be drummed up before it gets passed. So there would be a fiscal plan that would be put together and distributed to know exactly what is required by the state for us to have that all in place, and ideas and concepts of what you're asking would be, I don't think they'll be that detailed as you're asking, but they'll be somewhat
Okay.
addressed in that fiscal plan.
So in the steps, do you think that if we're against it, we should really express that now so that you don't get to that point? Or should we wait until you get to that point to really express our unagreement to it? Is it just too early to say, no, we really don't want to do that, or do we really need to wait for that report to come out for?
No, I mean,
You can, yeah, you can share
Okay.
your
share
opinion on
That's
that
fine.
side.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
understand where your process was.
Mhm.
right. I mean, there's gonna be people that are a hard no for right off the bat, but we're hoping to, maybe chat with folks here and kind of feel everyone out on their temperament about it, and then go from there.
Oh, wonderful. All right, well, you've done a great job answering my questions then.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, who's next?
How much does it cost to tap into the sewer line? Do you have any idea?
Yes, in our ordinance, we charge $2,500.
Okay.
I didn't realize I couldn't hear this.
If you're gonna speak, come up here
No,
and,
I'm not coming up. I don't need to come up. I can talk loud.
Actually, if you don't mind, would you say your name?
Yes.
Because we need that for the minutes.
Gail and Mike Lewis, 5164 Iowa Street, across from the library. Okay, so this map with
Yes.
the serrated lines, that's the area that you're wanting to annex? Yes or no?
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Stay right in there at the library.
What's the benefits to the city annexing all this?
The main benefit is to give us breathing room for when Plainfield continues their urban sprawl that they're doing, and they come out here and annex everything around us, that we have a kind of a little, a buffer zone, so to speak. So, and I know we've talked about it a lot over the last 5 years on the process or the progress that Plainfield has been making moving out. And I don't know how many of you follow the General Assembly stuff and the bills that are proposed. Mr. Steuerwald has proposed a bill that will allow Plainfield to annex property that's not contiguous with their city limits. And I believe that they're going after this development that's going to be going around the golf course on 39. These are $1 million homes, and they want the revenue from that.
Is that the D.R. Horton neighborhood?
No,
That's a different one?
yes, I think the Horton neighborhood is over near Martha's
Yeah,
Orchard.
I didn't know. Okay.
This is the plan for
Deer Creek.
Deer Creek, part of
Country
the
Club.
golf course to be moved to the west side of 39. And so there'll be 9 holes on the east side of 39 with homes around it, 9 holes on the west side of 39 with homes around it, all high-end homes.
Okay.
So, this is all outside of Clayton, that's in the township, so.
So is Belleville part of the Clayton area? So you can't annex any of it?
Well, we could, but you just have to go, right now, you have to go contiguous property. So it has to be touchy.
Yeah.
And 1/8 contiguous is the way that the Indiana code reads. And so you
kind of
have to follow those processes. You can't just leapfrog out there and grab Belleville and say it's part of Clayton now.
What is unique about the situation with Plainfield that potentially allows them to leapfrog?
Well, and I went through reading that bill that was proposed, and the golf course, they're in negotiation with the owners of the golf course to buy the golf course as a municipal golf course. So that then says, because we own the golf course, that development around it is now getting our services so we can annex them. And a town it's really bizarre, all the lists of criteria, but it's very specific to Plainfield meets all the criteria. None of the other towns around here would meet that criteria to annex that spot. So, it's just, I think it was tailor-made to be able to allow them to annex that. If they annex there, then they automatically have the right of way along 39 and 40 as the pathway to get to that. So yeah, that's written in that bill as well. So then, well, now they've got the right of way all the way up 39 to 40, and they already supply water to Belleville. Those fire hydrants in Belleville are Plainfield water supply.
Plainfield has had an ongoing
So-
annexation process throughout the past several years. They annex a ring, and then they go after another ring, and then they go after another ring. And it's just a continual process with them.
So that's just what makes us kind of nervous, being we're going to be landlocked inside of Plainfield at some point in time in the future. I don't know if it's going to be 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, but at some point it seems like that's the progress that they are working towards. So not to be, a fear monger and say, we got to get on this, but I don't know that how much time we have to get some of our buffer zone built in before it's too late, kind of thing. Yes, ma'am.
So a few years ago when I came, you were talking about annexing. Had we annexed any of the area around the central town, or no, we didn't? So this is still expanding from that.
Like I said, in 2021, we annexed 2 properties.
Oh, just 2.
That was the wastewater treatment plant that the
Okay.
town already owned that, but it was outside of our
Right.
corporate limits, and then a section of Mr. Penner's property.
Okay.
All right. Yes, sir.
Daryl George representing Bob Shear. He's a number one here, 114 acres.
Number 1. All right.
He's a
I like
hard no on that. You don't want nothing to do with it. So, way we feel that we don't want nothing north of town, but that's just the way he feels.
Any special reason, or just don't like it?
I don't need houses. Period.
Okay.
The tax rate will go up.
Well, your property is agriculture, right? So your property cannot have an increase in taxes under the state law currently. Even if the town annexes your agricultural zoned property into town, the state law says we cannot raise your taxes if it stays agricultural. Now, if you change your purpose of that land, you decide I'm gonna build houses on it. Now taxes can go up. You're telling me you're not gonna build houses on it, so it's just,
I doubled them last year.
but yeah, that was not us.
So your
The town
property-
of Clayton did not do that.
Right, your property stays as it is zoned now, even when it's annexed, unless you desire it to be changed.
Is the county tax rate different than what his agricultural tax rate would be within the city limits? Because you're saying right now it wouldn't change, but if he goes from county taxes, which he probably is now, considering he's outside the current corporate limits, and he goes inside, is there a different tax rate for agricultural ground within the town, or has that even been established? Because you may not have much that's ruled that way.
Well, I just know from reading through the rules in Title 36, Chapter 4 on the Indiana Code, agricultural land, even if it's brought into a municipality, corporate limits, taxes cannot be raised to supply the town with more tax revenue because it's agricultural property. So, and that's current Indiana code. Like, Indiana codes change all the time. I mean, the number of bills that they're looking at this year, I mean, it's unreal to read through that list, but that's just right now, that's the way they have it fixed. I mean, to the state of Indiana, and rightfully so, agricultural land is sacred land. I mean, we are, you know, a farming state. We have, you know, placed an incredible amount of importance on our farmers and our farming community, which is, I love that because we all have to eat. And if you don't grow crops, we don't get to eat. So, but that's the way they look at that. All right, who's next on?
Well, I just have a question. I've been looking at like properties for sale. Is there a new addition going in on 600 South west of the cemetery that you know of?
I do not know of any property there being developed, no.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Yes, sir.
Jeff Malcolmus, 4389 Iowa Street.
All right.
I live in the city, so none of this annex affects me except for 29. I live on the south side of the lake, across the lakes of Farmfield. I'd hate to see apartments go in there, a housing addition or any of that stuff, because that would spoil my reason for buying my house. That's what I'm worried about.
Okay.
So repeat that again, you're,
He lives in
43
town
You
on
live
the
in
south
town.
side of, so Mr. Woolard's property is on the north side of the lake from him.
oh, okay,
When I look out my living room window, I see the lake and then the farm field on the far side.
right, gotcha,
And, you know, apartments, warehouses, housing addition, that would just spoil.
right. Well, that's agriculturally zoned right now, right? According to what I'm
This
looking at.
farm,
Yeah, he
farm.
rents
So-
it to a farmer.
So, but that could happen whether or not it's annexed or not. If that individual decided to sell that property, they could put in homes now
Uh-huh.
and just have it pass through the county to get it done. So it doesn't really, annexing doesn't keep that from happening, but it would help because then someone would have to come to the town to get that cleared before they could go ahead and start doing it. Where this way, they'd just go down to Danville, you know, to the county and get it cleared, and you could have
So
homes going up
it's-
no matter what.
Clayton's one to annex this, not Plainfield's trying to grab it.
Right, right.
Okay, okay.
So,
That's where I was.
yeah, what we're trying to do is develop a ring around current Clayton property line. So that gives a buffer for the town. It also takes care of the property owners around in that buffered area. And then, you know, down the road, we would probably address again another ring, depending on if people showed interest on those properties. You know, we would have the same discussions again 2-3 years from now with other property owners, if we were successful with this one, about those properties. But we can't talk to those people yet because we have to address the initial
Oh, okay.
round first, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Who's next? Who else wants to talk?
I'll introduce myself, but I would like for you all to introduce yourselves as well, please.
Absolutely. I'm Doug Bignell.
I know you.
Okay.
Tom Stein?
Nice to meet you.
Dave Ernst.
Very nice.
I'm Leanne Davis.
Diana Anderson.
Okay, my question is, yeah,
And your name?
one second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
1 second. Also, you hold many seats, not just this now. So I think it'd be fair to also tell us what committees, where do you sit, what are you doing for the town? I think that's a fair question to ask. So can you,
You say what number she is?
Bob, you know me. I'd like to know what you sit, what positions, what councils, please.
Okay. I am currently just now the chair of the planning commission.
Okay,
I am also on the town board as a town council member, and I hold the president's seat.
South.
great,
BZA, that's all, that's,
excellent.
I'm,
Which stands for Board of Zoning Appeals. Just
yes.
yeah, I'm on the town council,
Okay,
and I am the vice president of the town council, and now I'm the vice chair of the planning committee.
thank you. Ma'am?
And I am, on the town board.
Okay.
And just a member of the planning commission.
Okay, ma'am?
I'm on the BZA and just recently became secretary of the planning.
Okay. My name's Brooke, We've had, are you Pete?
Yes,
Okay, so you, what do you do?
I'm a town manager.
Okay, I need to talk to you later.
Okay.
Nice to meet you unofficially.
I'm sorry, I need the last name and an address.
Well, I'm gonna give you my name, but I'm not gonna supply you with my address, because there's a situation there we've already somewhat talked about. So,
Yes, she gets an exemption from the address.
yes, I do. Margason, Margason.
We're not gonna learn anything
Okay.
now.
Okay. Bob, can you hear? Can you hear?
No.
Okay, I'll turn towards you. All right, so we've already established the utilities, we will not get water, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so if this happens, the sewer line will be ran, correct? Okay. But we will be responsible for the financial burden, the $2,500 to connect, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so my next question is the waste gravity fed? Or are we gonna have to also purchase the grinders to then push? Do we know that answer to that yet?
Currently,
It's gravity?
every pipe in Clayton is gravity fed. So I don't know how they did that, but 5.7 miles of sewer pipe all
Okay.
goes to the wastewater treatment plant downhill
Okay,
somehow.
that's great.
And from where you live, I believe it will be easily continued gravity. I don't think we'll have to have a mechanism to pump it or push it that
Okay.
direction.
The exception to
A
that
force main.
is that there's a stem that runs all the way out to the high school,
Okay,
and there's a couple,
There's a force main,
there's
so they have
uplift stations
Okay.
that do that work.
now you also know there's been miscommunication and things like that, and people have no shortage of talking about things. So one of my big concerns with the sewage issue is that there have been people within the town that has had sewer back up into their homes. There has been issues with the school, with the line, supposedly. But I'm asking those questions. Are you currently taking care of what is within the town limits before we push to go out further? I just have concerns, because I'm not aware, but people have lots of stories. So these are the questions I want to ask. So are the current people in the town, is the service of the sewage, is it functioning properly for everyone that's currently on it? I just want to be clear, because
Yes,
I want
that's
to
a
know.
great question. Is it functioning perfectly? No.
Okay.
There are issues that we are currently trying to fix. It was built in the 70s, so it's pretty old, and we have lots of repairs that are continuing all the time. Back in 2020,
Okay.
we did some CIPP lining of several pipes and trying to upgrade them, and we did some upgrades to manholes and that stuff. But there's lots more work that we need to get done
Okay.
to continue that. I know over on Regan, Michigan, there's some pipes that we have to actually dig up and repair because they can't just be lined. We have, the state gives us, they do inspections frequently and tell us, here's all the things you need to keep working on and keep fixing. And
So, I think it's fair to say that I have a real concern then.
Mhm.
Because if there's already issues within the septic system, can you hear me? So there's already issues within the septic system. I'm a little concerned that you're pushing too far out. Yes, you're gaining more farmland, but there are homeowners. So we don't have the problems fixed that are current, but we're gonna run more sewage. Do you see how it's very contradictory and confusing for me? Because you need to take care of what you have first before you reach out, in my opinion. You wanna know pros and cons, I'm giving them to you. And as I sit and started thinking about this and other things, I'm not gaining anything. I pay to have my septic pumped. That's $350 at if it's functioning 4 to 5 years or something like that? So is it fair to say that the average person that pays sewer is $75 a month? Roughly, ballpark.
sewer fee is $65 for residents.
Okay,
And $5 stormwater fee, so that's two separate, it's in one bill, but it's two separate
Okay.
funds. But yeah, $70 total for how much a resident in Clayton pays.
Okay.
And everybody pays the same amount, so it's not different for, each house.
So you could have 8 people in your home.
Yes.
And you're flushing, showering, all that. You're gonna pay the same. I'm gonna pay the same as you for 2 people.
Yeah, we've got 2 and we pay the same thing.
Okay, so if there's a household that has, does anyone in here have a household more than two individuals within your home? Okay, so you're going to pay the same rate, right, as you would, I would, or he would, regardless of your usage. Not to point you, I'm not trying to mean, but, do you know what I mean, there's a difference.
Right,
They're gonna have
the
more
reason,
use.
the reason why there's a base fee is because we have no way of gauging how much water you're using, because we don't have a water system that tells us how much volume is going in versus how much should be going out. Towns that have a service coming in, they gauge what they charge you for, not only for the water, but for what you're wasting
Okay.
is off that gauge, so they can fluctuate the amount that you're using. My son has a house in Danville, and his toilet gets stuck, and his jumps up and down all the time because they're charging him more because it's not only using the water, but he's also flushing the water at the same time. So what the town has done is they've gone with a flat rate because we have no idea of who's using what. And the flat rate was discussed as far as making it equal throughout the town, and what was to cover our renovations and billing for the wastewater treatment
I
plant.
understand that, that's a good base, but my other question is like, that's a future problem, that's future money, that's future tax dollars, that's gonna have to be addressed, correct? Eventually.
What is future money or future dollars?
Okay, so the regulations, you have no way to regulate who's doing what. So as the town grows, those type of things are gonna be implemented, they're gonna have to, right?
Right, that's where we'll do our planning, of
Okay.
course.
Okay, we can move on to the next question. So, there's a percentage of properties, correct? Like, what I'm saying is 51%, either 51% have to say yes, or 51% have to say no, right?
Correct.
So, let's say 51% of people say, yes, oh yes, we wanna do this. I'm the other percent, so I'm getting annexed, even though I don't wanna be annexed, correct? Cause that's the way it's written.
Potentially, that's what the law allows. Doesn't mean we have to do that. It's what the law allows. So, and there's, the reason the law is written that way is kind of that mindset of, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one kind of thing. And in our country, we do that with lots of stuff, not just annexation problems, but, elections, sometimes are 51% versus 49%, and we live with it, so.
And I understand that, but I just want it to be made very clear that even though you may be the smaller percentage, they're going to take you into the town. That's a very real possibility, correct?
It is a possibility.
Very correct, yeah,
Mhm.
okay. I just wanna make sure. So I also wanna make clarification, ask clarification. So am I different from someone that owns 100 acres? So Bob Schreier owns 100 acres. I don't have 100 acres. So is if he says yes, which he won't, but if he says yes, does his weigh heavier than my property?
No,
So there's no gray area there.
no.
Okay,
It's one property versus one property.
Okay.
And that's, yeah.
all right. Next one. So I had very little time to read through this because it was just on the table. So, what is this ordinance about firearms? Did you all amend it?
We did not.
Okay,
That's the way it's been. Unfortunately, it was published with only page 1 for some reason,
I'm aware, yes.
and there are 2 pages.
Okay,
So it was just a mistake on the publishing company's part of, they only got the first page on the website.
okay, so are they fixing their error?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, I'm gonna amend that. They are not fixing the errors yet. We're going back through all of the ordinances that were passed since
okay,
the one in 2015 to make sure that other ordinances that didn't get updated at the same time. Every time there is an update done to that, American Legal Publishing charges the town a fee to do the update, and it's not a small fee, and it adds up. So we want to do all of the updates for all of the ordinances that have been missed all at the same time to reduce our costs.
Okay, so I'm gonna be very forward. Are we looking, has there been discussions about amending the firearms within the town? Or are we working on any part of that right now?
No, at
Do you
this
have
point,
any at this point, right?
right.
So has there been conversations that might be an issue later?
Right now, the ordinance is of what is in that paper that you probably picked
I
up.
haven't been able to read it all yet, so
Okay.
could you explain?
So you're not allowed to shoot an ordinance in town. I
Okay.
can read it off if that would.
Yes, please. I didn't have time to read it because it's just now available for me to
Okay.
look at.
So I'm gonna skip over a lot of the wherein, whereas, and all that. The ordinance on firearms. Basically, it boils down to firearms on town property.
What page are you on, sir?
I'm on 130.01, and then the meat of the discussion
Okay,
is
here we go.
130.04, which is the last page. It goes through the definitions of what a firearm is, and then it goes through on point B, no person shall fire or discharge or cause to be fired a discharge within the town limits of any firearm. There are exceptions which list the natural exceptions you would think of: peace officers, a person using a firearm in self-defense, a person using a firearm for threat of property, or a noxious animal. I found noxious to be kind of a weird word.
I'm sorry, I will laugh with you with that one.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then the fourth one is persons conducting private recreational shooting provided they are following the Met. And then there's 3 conditions to meet that.
Okay,
And then the 5th clause is persons conducting indoor outdoor shooting range who have first obtained the applicable zone approval through the town. And then the same thing for number 6 for a shooting club. So in those bottom 2, someone would have to come to the town
and ask permission.
and ask permission, and if the town marshal found it acceptable for them to do, then they would be granted
And
exception to
who
be
is
able
our,
to do so.
let's be clear, who's our town marshal here? Because I'm not aware that.
Thomas Reminder,
Okay, is he currently
he
here?
is not currently out here, but 2 of his officers are.
Okay, nice to meet you.
Um,
So if someone like me, that's kind of given pushback, am I gonna be denied if this goes through and then I have to come ask permission because I've been a little bit of a pain?
No,
It's
no,
true,
I
it's a
mean,
fair question.
but we're, this isn't a vindictive group.
Okay,
And
I got it.
but we're not gonna rubber stamp it either.
Okay,
We have to take in consideration the rest of the town and the 720 people that live here in town if we're gonna change something. So, we don't wanna open another can of worms by trying to fix another can of worms.
okay,
Does that make sense?
yeah,
Okay, so right now, just like the budget considerations, the fiscal considerations for, that, you don't have this one.
okay,
This is one I brought. Fiscal considerations for what we'll have to do at the plan for services and other benefits of the town. That is something that we'll address at that time as well, talking about should we change the ordinance or should we grandfather in some kind of an ordinance or something like that.
okay.
As it sits right now, from my standpoint on the town council, what's there is adequate. It's just a merely process of somebody coming in here and going, hey, is it okay if I have a shooting range on my property? You know, it's basically, that's it, you know.
So my other question is, so if it's a home that's law enforcement, do you still have to have permission? Do you have to come and ask the marshal for permission?
To fire off, to fire off your,
But it said lawful officer, correct? What part was that?
no,
I think when it references a peace officer, it's probably
Peace officer
referencing
for-
that officer
Okay,
doing
so
their
if
job.
they come to
an
my
officer
home-
on duty.
So,
Okay, all right. We'll move on to the next question. My next question is, has there been any positions filed for the voluntary annexation? And if so, who? Because we have that legal right to know. So do we have to ask, or do we have to come in for a public request to find that out?
now that's a good question. Because of the stage we're at in this,
Mhm.
we haven't gone into the official annexation process. So nobody has
So no
said,
one's came
I
to
want
you
to, right.
and said,
Nobody has
"Hey,
said, I want to be
I'm
annexed.
ready, let's
Yeah.
just go.
Right.
Not as yet.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, there have been planning commission members in the past who said, I had a conversation with so-and-so over at the cafe, and they're all for it. But that's been the extent of that kind of information. It's been, we were sitting down talking over, biscuits and gravy, and they said they'd be willing to be annexed.
Okay.
There's nothing official that's been submitted in writing,
Yeah.
like an affidavit or any of
So
that stuff.
what I'm saying is that gonna be transparent, or do we have to make a public request if the process starts? How does that work? I mean, will that be made available to us if the process starts? Or is that something that we actually have to like?
Are you talking about the formal process of annexation?
No. I'm saying.
If an individual
if it
property owner,
starts And a property owner says,
Okay.
hey, I want you, you want me, let's go, right? So that's kind of what, because I mean, that kind of can kick off an annexation is signed petitions, and to my knowledge, what I've been told. So I just want to make sure, as of today, there's 0 signed petitions from any landowners.
Correct.
Legal signed petitions.
Correct.
Okay. So, this is my final and last thing. So I like to go straight to the source. That's the kind of person I am. So I went to Plainfield and I spoke to the Director of Economic Development herself. Her name's Alyssa Wallard. She's actually probably watching right now. She said she has absolutely 0 intentions of touching anything around the town of Clayton. That if they even wanted to do that, it would be extremely far off. And she asked me to express that. So she wants to be clear because they're kind of upset that this is happening. So I have her Plainfield email address at the town. I also have her phone number. She wants anyone in this room that has any question about Plainfield at all to email or call her. She says she will answer any question you have. No matter where you live, what's going on, she'll answer that. So that's my final thing. Like, I go to the direct person of Plainfield that says, we don't want any part of this. Where is this coming from? And she looked into things. And there was one disturbing thing, but it was that someone from the town of Clayton actually approached the town of Plainfield that wanted to be annexed. So there it is. I don't know who, I don't know where they live, I didn't ask, it's not my business. But that's a little disturbing, don't you think? I find it very disturbing. Very disturbing.
Sure.
So I just think we need to be very clear about what we're saying. Do you know what I mean? Because it's said so many ways, oh, Plainfield. And I thought, okay, I'll go directly to the source. And I did. They're not very happy right now because they have 0 intentions of any of the red right now to touch Clayton. Now, I can't speak for her. That's what she said. But I have all of her contacts. She said, any of you can contact her and she would love to talk to you about it. But she has 0 interest in it. So I'm a little upset, honestly, because I don't live in Plainfield. I lived there for 20 years. And this lady's telling me, I don't want anything to do with it. And actually, we have been approached by a landowner, which is kicking some of this off, probably. Do you know what I mean? And then the miscommunication and the loss of letters and, oh, it was mailed, it's not mailed, you know what I mean? Like, it's not been very forthcoming. And I'm a little upset about that.
well, this is like we started
I
out,
know.
it's just an informal kickoff, anybody interested, yay, nay, no?
I understand.
Okay, and so there's not been a lot of info put out there because we don't know what info to put out. We don't want to do anything until we find out there's any interest in it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we're at.
Okay.
You're using Plainfield as an excuse as a.
Some
We're not
people-
using Plainfield as an excuse.
Some-
We're planning for the future.
Can we have one person up here talking at a time? You can get your chance, but
Oh, I'm good.
Brooke is up here talking.
It's all right.
Okay.
swear.
I got it.
So I've lived here in Clayton since 1996.
Okay.
Everybody up here has lived in Clayton for several years.
Mm-hmm.
We're not looking to have Plainfield come out here. We see what they're doing and we have to plan ahead, just like they're planning ahead.
Right.
So that is our reason for doing this. One of the reasons why we are doing this is because of the encroachment of Plainfield out this way.
I mean, I understand
So-
the logic.
Right,
but
we don't want to wait till the last minute before we have no choices.
I understand that, but there is not even a long-term plan right now for anywhere touching the town of Clayton.
It's
Did
close.
she share with
It's
you that
close.
she's annexing, that they're
The belt-
annexing
maybe
the
the-
golf course and
The
the,
belt, but that's not touching your town limits right now.
No, but it's
but
close.
they
But it's closer.
get the road
Okay.
that touches
Yeah,
Belleville.
I understand that.
That's 2 miles
Is-
away.
Okay, so Brad Butler, is he here tonight?
No,
Okay, because he said he was gonna fight for the people of Belleville, correct?
I don't know.
Okay.
But I know Brad Butler.
Okay, but I mean, he said he was gonna be here tonight to support the people in Liberty Township, and he's not here, correct? I mean, I don't see Brad Butler here.
He may have work, he's a Pike Township fireman.
Okay, okay. But I guess that what I'm looking for is an answer. I may not have lived here 25 years like you, or something like that, but it doesn't make me any less, because I've been here 5 years. And I find it disheartening that I found out things the way I found out, period. I think it's just very bad. So, I went to the person in the town that's supposed to be directly affecting us, and she was very transparent with me. So that's all I have to say. I don't have any more questions right now.
Well, Plainfield also has a director of planning. Did you talk to him?
She is the highest you can go,
Okay.
period.
Well, the town manager's the highest you can go.
Well, I mean, of course.
And you're.
I mean, you're that, or no, you're that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, anyway,
I get
there's lots of times when, because of strategy or whatever, they don't detail everything that they're doing.
Mhm.
I mean, their director of planning, he was at the comprehensive plan review in Danville that I attended,
Mhm.
and he said, we have no plans
Okay.
to go west of Plainfield anymore, where they're at.
Mhm.
And now they have a bill proposed to annex west of Plainfield, the
Right.
golf course and those houses. So I don't think they were being
And that's fine.
100%.
And that's perfectly fine, that's okay, because I'm finding that out in this whole process, that it's not very forthcoming. I'm just pointing it out because you are the town council president, he takes care of the town, right? So then you all need to probably address Plainfield and get to the bottom of it, so when this process starts, you can be like, hey, we talked to her. This is the situation, these are hard facts, this is what they're doing. I think that would probably help your case a little bit instead of just blanketing it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I understand the basis of it, but I don't agree with the way it's being done right now.
Okay.
I think that's fair.
I also attended the redevelopment commission meeting in August
Mhm.
of '24, and the redevelopment commission, they established TIF districts. I don't know if you understand TIF districts, but it's called tax increment financing.
Mhm.
So they created district where no development has happened, and so they take kind of like a base assessment, and then as development happens, they get to direct money that increases. So taxes go up because now it's developed.
Mhm.
And then the redevelopment commission gets to use that. So in the redevelopment commission meeting that they invited us to, because it affects our library and it affects our schools, because they annexed so much into Liberty Township over there around the golf course on 40 and north, that they're taking money away from our school and our library.
That's not fair, I get that.
I know,
I mean,
but
I
that's
don't-
what they had to divulge that because of state law. So
I
I
mean,
mean-
stop there. Who's taking money from the library?
Plainfield's redevelopment commission is,
They are.
yes, because they've annexed property in Liberty Township.
How did that happen? Why did we let that happen then?
It happens because that's what they do when they
Probably
annex.
a county issue,
I'm sorry, what?
probably a county issue, not a town issue.
Oh, that's a good point, Mr. Monday.
Well, the town of Plainfield put together their annexation plan,
Uh-huh,
just like what we're talking about, the concept here is we wanted to annex around our town. So they did the same thing. But the golf course that's on 40 is in Liberty Township.
mhm,
But Plainfield now has it within their municipal boundaries.
mhm.
The neighborhood to the north, Vandalia neighborhood for over 55 people.
Yeah.
There's over 700 homes in that. That is in Liberty Township as well. But instead of Liberty Township getting the taxes from those homes, Plainfield gets the majority of them because it's a redevelopment, TIF district.
You brought up a very good topic that I wanted to bring up. So, our police department for Clayton consists of the marshal and these deputies here, and that's it?
No, there's, they
How
have
many is there?
8,
10 total.
You have 10?
10
reserve
10
Wow,
deputies.
okay,
They're all reserve, they're volunteers though.
okay,
Okay.
okay. So, that's my next question. So, if this happens and if things go through or whatever it may be,
Mhm.
will that police department grow for them? Will some of the tax from the new people coming in, will they be able to grow their police department?
That would be the hope, yes, they would need to,
I mean,
as they start.
employed, not reserve, but
Sure.
employed?
Right.
Will that?
Yeah, and that's another difficult thing about the state of Indiana. We have a max levy that we're allowed to grow by.
Uh-huh.
So a couple of years ago, I talked to the Department of Local Government Finance and I said, what if I want to make my police department a full-time police department? How do I do that? And they said, you should already have a full-time police department. And I said, I hear you, but I don't. So how do I grow my
What do I do?
taxes to support them? And they said, yeah, you'll have to get grants.
There's a lot
I mean,
of
that's-
grants for that, actually.
Sure,
There's
yeah,
a
there
lot.
are.
There's
It's
quite a
just,
bit.
there was, the state said, we're not gonna help you grow your levy to support that. You have to find a different way around that. So unfortunately, that's kind of where we're stuck with.
But then that kind of circles back to the whole thing of, so we do have sewer issues within the town,
Mhm,
but we're gonna put new sewer issues in.
mhm.
The police department is not
Well, the-
large, you're not probably getting paid. How can we grow a police department if we're still working on old problems within the town? It's just a
Different
general
pots of
question.
money, right? I mean, you're only allocated certain money.
And I appreciate your questions,
Yes,
but those are other meetings, and that's outside kind of the scope of why we're here this evening.
True,
Well-
true, but.
And I think they're good questions. So one,
True,
the-
but,
Well,
this is pros and cons and I should be able to ask.
Well, it's outside the scope of this meeting, and everyone
Okay.
here is
That's okay.
wanting to address that.
She's speaking.
yeah, she's speaking, so let her talk.
I gave you your time,
Um,
so respectfully, I
the-
gave you your time.
And we gave you
Here's-
40 minutes.
Here's
I have
the,
not been up here 40 minutes.
How long did you?
Okay, but listen,
Brooke,
I'm sorry, wait a second. I did not talk for 40 minutes, I asked questions, they responded. Whether that benefits you or not, I'm entitled to ask those questions, period. I'm sorry. Doug, finish
Okay,
so I
so-
can have a seat.
you have brought up excellent points about the town is not perfect. And we're working on solving problems. There will always be problems for the town to solve. So not annexing versus annexing doesn't change the issue of we have to fix problems. I mean,
Sure. It just,
It's-
you know.
yeah, there
I
are
think-
definitely issues that are these mountains that we have to climb up and, try to plant flags. And I'm not gonna stop working towards improving things just because I have XYZ problems. I can work on both things at the same time. So let's continue solving our sewer problem by rehabbing manholes and getting sewer pipes repaired, and then also continue to say, let's not be landlocked if urban sprawl continues to come this way.
Can you, last thing, can you tell me that you will address this lady and get answers then?
Yes,
Please.
absolutely.
Yeah, we'll reach out to her, sure.
Yeah, I just would like, there's gotta be somewhere.
I mean,
something.
Andrew Klinger and I talk all the time. He's the town manager of Plainfield, so,
Okay,
and he and I actually have a meeting scheduled for next Monday, so we talk all the time.
okay.
An interesting case study for annexation is Whitestown and Zionsville. If anybody wants to dig into that, the little town of Whitestown,
Mhm.
the large town of Zionsville, and how Zionsville took over Whitestown's property, same way that Doug has talked about. There's a lot of court cases about it. But it sprawled really quickly because of the development exit, State Road 334, developed up there back in 2006. That was all TIF district. And it went from there to 3 exits north all the way to Lebanon within about 10 years and sprawled that fast. So not to scare anybody, but as Doug was saying, and I have no dog in this fight, I don't live in the town at all. So just here to listen. I did work for a very large excavating company for nearly 20 years, and I'm quite familiar with how annexation works because of the government work we did. And I can tell you that annexation can happen at an unbelievable rate. And I don't mean like overnight, but they can jump quickly if they can get people on board selling property at high values. And so
Oh, of course.
if Plainfield brings in a golf course, sewer and water, I can tell you with sewer and water comes development. It's roads, sewer and water are needed for high density development, and that's what makes places attractive to towns. And so if they get sewer and water in and around the golf course along State Road 39, because currently the sewer and water stops all the way down by near I-70 where the warehouses are. So there's a big area there that's not currently served. That water actually, that sewer water goes to Monrovia. So Doug was talking about how Plainfield is taking money out of Liberty Township and they're Guilford Township, and Monrovia is taking money out of Liberty Township for wastewater treatment and things like that. Because they touch it, they were able to annex it. They jumped the interstate, even though it's Hendricks County. Monrovia controls that. So I guess in that, I would say that there's a tremendous amount of information online if you research Whitestown, which would have been much like we are here, and Zionsville, which probably would be much in the same boat as what Plainfield is, and how that went quickly. I think within about 10 years, they moved about 15 miles out to State Road 3, out to 65, and past Whitestown, and actually encompassed some of the property around Whitestown.
If you look at corporate maps of Zionsville, Lebanon, Whitestown,
Okay.
there are Zionsville lots completely 100% surrounded by Whitestown corporate limits.
Right.
Whitestown has to supply utilities to those lots. There are lawsuits, I mean, upon lawsuits. I
believe
was
that.
personally involved with a building that sat vacant for over a year, a multi-million-dollar building, because it was in the Lebanon corporate limits, supplied by Whitestown Utilities. Whitestown said, we don't have to supply you utilities.
Okay.
Lebanon was miles from it, and that's where all this has come about
Okay.
you can't continue to grow outside what you touch.
Right.
But whenever they jump, and that's kind of what Doug was saying with this opportunity they've got to provide utilities, come through the country. I don't know what road that is, it'd be like 600, 500 south or so, where the old wastewater plant is.
Oh,
They can come down 500 south and make their way across K-Rines, and they can service a tremendous amount of that area very quickly with sewer and water. And the development's already started there with that, I don't know what that development is there on 425. And again, I don't mean to scare anybody, but I do know that there is a tremendous amount of documentation on the Whitestown Zionsville issue, and it's not a whole lot different than where this is. They're just 25 years farther forward than maybe where we are
I
currently.
just, and I appreciate you saying that. I just think there needs to be major clarity here, because apparently she's not speaking the truth either.
She may not know the
I
truth.
would wager if you would have asked her 2 years ago if they were going to annex Deer Creek, she would have said no.
I mean,
And now it's
maybe,
there.
maybe,
And
maybe
it's,
so.
and I don't have a dog in this fight either, other than my wife works for the school district.
Yeah, I'm sorry, what school district, I'm sorry?
Real
Mill
quick.
Creek Schools.
Okay, okay. And I don't disagree with what you're saying, I just,
But you're one, but you got up there and you made your speech, now you're getting some feedback from it.
I think, well, and I'm grateful for that, but I just feel like you have a very good point. When there's a problem that comes up, just like normal, like, you wanna hear one person's side, you wanna hear the other person's side. Because when you're stuck in the middle and you're not getting what you need to understand things, that's where I win. And I'm sorry for that, but that's my right to find out and ask the questions. So I just went directly to her. Whether that's truthful or not, I don't know her, I can't stand on that ground, I'm just saying I made the phone call, that's it. I'm gonna go. Does
Thank you,
anybody
Brooke.
else have questions for me?
I'll make clear.
No, those are good questions. You brought up great points. I appreciate you being here.
I would
And-
personally just say that I don't know who she is, and I don't know, and I'm not saying that she has any malintent in anything that she's saying. I just know that there's lots of things that happen. Ronald Reagan Parkway took 30 years to plan for and 10 years to develop. So planning stages take a long time, and then construction happens very quickly. And so, as somebody who does work at a business that's within the town limits, I can appreciate what the town's thinking about. I don't know if this is the right time or not. Obviously, there's a lot of things that need to be answered, and I think that we're so early in this process, there's not a lot of answers, because there's
That's
not
fair.
been a lot of, definement around what this truly looks like. Is this the first public meeting?
Supposed to be.
This is
Well,
just,
so, I mean,
this
we had
is-
a public meeting back in 2019 when we first started, but,
So the first one in 5 years or
right,
6 years.
so now we've kind of picked the mantle back up going, let's see if this is still an option. And yeah, we need to know what are the things we have to answer. And so these are good points to work towards, let's answer these questions.
And the points you've brought up, the points everyone else has brought up are all points that should probably be covered somehow in the fiscal plan, because those points
And that
are affected
comes-
financially
Right.
to the town, and so the town has to come up with a fiscal plan before the formal process can be completed.
Okay, so the fiscal plan, we will get that, but we don't get that till officially starts, right? The fiscal,
Well,
we
when
get the fiscal
we-
before.
With the fiscal plan will get built as the process moves along.
Okay.
And then it has to be approved, I believe, by the State Board of Accounts, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, and the way that the Indiana code is laid out, we have to have that pretty much
Done.
I's dotted, T's crossed, and presented to everybody at the very first public information session. And there has to be 6 of them. So it's not something we can do at midnight on a Saturday when
Right.
you're in Florida or something.
Right.
There's a process of over 60 days. We have to make sure that people are invited, people are notified, that there's information in the Republican. I don't know if you get the paper or not, but there'll be information mailed to you. There'll be, and, you know, obviously, we figured out that we didn't do a great job on the mailers this time. So
Yeah, that
you
was
learn from your
unpleasant
mistakes.
finding
So
out
now
that, yeah.
we know how to do that better for the next time when this comes up. And it might be a year from now before we move forward. It might be 5 years from now. I don't know. I just know that, like, all these points you brought up are great ones for us to start addressing and say, let's figure out good answers to these questions.
And so when I came in 5 years ago and I gave the legal documentation to the town manager, and now it's not there, it's really not my responsibility to fix, right?
Correct.
Okay. I mean, I'll comply, I got the letter, but Dave's on a fishing trip, I will do it when he comes back, we'll come together.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect. All right, thank you. All right. Anybody else want to talk? Okay, come on up.
So, at the beginning of her, yeah, Carly Wilson, 71 West Michigan.
Be careful. Thanks for coming.
I did want to say, because it was mentioned before, I am in the town sewer, and I appreciate it being that way, that it's not a 2-person home or a 7-person home, because it actually comes out a lot quicker that way, of less expensive from all the other counties I've lived in the past. So I appreciate that. And the only thing I've ever had to do with my sewer was on my own property, because someone wanted to run through my yard. Fixed now. But the other thing is like, I just want a clarification too, because I think there was a lot of mishap of just people talking online and things like that. So I want to put my 2 cents in of what I think is going on. So what I see is Plainfield, I look at their actions, not what they say, of they have gotten bigger, they're expanding, they're doing all these things. We have been close. Everybody who's on this council has lived here for so many years, likes this small town, and is, in my eyes, a protector of the small town, so to speak, if I can give you all that label. So on the fear mongering that I saw online was that that we were giving our land to Plainfield so that they can produce multi-million-dollar homes around our town, and making like my little home like across the track, so to speak, like the down dog. You guys are saying we're trying to expand to protect it, to keep it all farmland, to keep it all this small mom and pop stuff, to keep it everything, because you are kind of the safekeepers of this small town. Whereas, even though they're not planning anything, we're just safeguarding what we can do so that we can keep our small town small. Did I?
Right.
That's
Right.
it?
Mhm.
So really, our annexation, my understanding before this meeting was, we're giving our property to Plainfield, and I was like, what in the world? but you're safekeeping it.
That's a social media misconception that
Okay.
got out there.
Okay.
I like Clayton the way it is, and I think everybody on the board and up here likes Clayton exactly the way it is right now. We're not looking to change it, we're just looking to protect it a little bit, and at the same time, protect those properties that are running a ring around Clayton. We have a book right here. Oops. Sorry. This is our comprehensive plan, and we have this online if you want to read it, but it states in the comprehensive plan about our futuristic plan of what we want Clayton to look like, and it's from input of people in town that filled out information about what they wanted the town to look like. We don't want a rubber stamp housing development put in somewhere that has properties bang, 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 bang right on top of each other. If we had a development come in, the opinion was, and this is just the opinion of people on that coffee kind of talk around the cafe, whatever, is it would be similar to Gilbert Woods. It won't be some sprawling big
And
development.
One other question, I don't know if you guys can answer this. So hypothetically, say we do nothing, everybody hates the annexation and they totally fight you tooth and nail on it. Plainfield ends up encroaching on the properties of Liberty, and all the farmers that are trying to just protect their farmland and agriculture, if they were to get annexed lawfully and rightfully, it just was a sucky time for them, could Plainfield or could Guilford Township deem that that's no longer agriculture and kind of mess with that? So as it's to the owner still.
Not, yeah, it's
Okay.
state law right now, again,
Okay.
because Indiana values farmland. It is farmland until the farmland owner says, I'm selling this to a developer.
Okay, yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Leanne, you wanted to say something?
I just wanna kinda clarify something for myself, is we keep saying Plainfield, Plainfield's coming, and they're coming and they're coming fast. But we gotta remember that Danville is also going to start coming down this way. So we're not just talking Plainfield, we're talking Plainfield and Danville. And I think that we wanna make sure that you know that we're talking about a buffer. And we won't own that property. I mean, we can't do anything with that property. All we're doing is saying, neither can you. So, you know, farmland's gonna stay farmland unless the farmer says, I want to develop this. Then they come to us and we say, yay, nay, you gotta follow the rules or whatever, but it's all gonna stay farmland.
That's the only real difference with the annexation. If a farmer decided tomorrow, Brenneman, for example, said, I'm gonna sell this to D.R. Horton Homes, the only difference is the controlling factor. Clayton would have to approve that development if that was annexed in, whereas currently, that property can still be sold for homes. There's nothing that prevents that, other than Hendricks County would be the controlling factor then. They could say yay or no, yay or nay on that development.
You bring a funny point, because she was brought here because we were giving our property to Plainfield, and then Dave made a comment about social misconception. So the reason that we're here is because there's supposedly a Senate bill, 1628, going forward that's going to allow the state to take over property if it wants to develop wind and solar power.
Power generation.
Yeah.
I read about that in the
Now,
paper.
this is authored by a representative named Snow up out of Wabash. And if it's a Senate bill, if it's a state bill, then it will impact every county. And so what you just said won't matter.
Yeah, the state could take him that
And we already
domain.
know what the county commissioners did last May. I mean, they openly addressed it, and the Republicans said, we are not for this development because of all the solar or wind power speculation.
Conversation, right,
Salem area.
right.
Yes.
All right, anybody else got some annexation comments, feedback? Anybody not had a chance to speak that wants to? Okay, go ahead.
You want me to come
Yes,
up here?
please.
Sorry. I'm Megan Miller, and I live right over here, so none of this really affects me, but I just wanted to say, I was listening to some people talk, I'm gonna turn around if that's okay. I was listening to some people talk about, their septic systems and how they're happy with them. I lived in Plainfield, and I moved here from there, and our septic went out. We could no longer use it. We had it pumped a bunch of times from that guy over there, actually. He'd have to come like every month. And ended up, we had to put in a new septic system, and the county made us do a mound, and it was about $40,000 to replace our septic system. And we would have been so grateful if we could have tapped into the Plainfield sewer, and we were not able to there where we lived. So I don't know if I'm for the annexation. It sounds like it's probably better for our town. I mean, I moved out here so that I could be in a small town and my kids could be in a small town. And I don't want to live in Plainfield because it's like Indianapolis anymore to me. But I just feel like I wanted to say that so everybody knows that it could be potentially expensive if you didn't tap into those. Anyway.
There is a state code
Thank you.
regardless. There is a state code that if you live within 300 feet of a city sewer, that they won't allow you a major repair on your system, like a replacement. You have to connect to the city sewer within 300 feet. That is because they're trying to clean up sewage in the ground. Septic systems are a major contributor. There's a lot of failing septic systems. Lots of them were put in the 40s and 50s and 60s. We're seeing stuff fail as early as stuff that was constructed in the 80s. So when one fails and when one doesn't, lots of people don't know about it. People aren't waving a flag on their property that it's happening because people want to stay pretty quiet about it usually. But I will say that regardless of annexation or not, if you're within 300 feet, you have to go through a certain set of parameters on whether or not they will allow you to rebuild a septic system or if they will have you connect. Part of those are price. So a septic system, I think, has to be 1.5 or 2 times more expensive than connecting to sewer. I'm sorry, connecting to sewer has to be 1.5 or 2 times more expensive than a septic system before they will allow you to go back to that. But there are some parameters already in state code that surround that, regardless of whether or not you're within or outside the town limits. In areas like that, and there's lots of areas in Brownsburg and Plainfield where people are saying, please come annex us, because 20 years ago they said, we don't want to be annexed. Nobody wants any of that. But now 20 years later, everybody wants it because they don't want mounds in their yard that take up 30% of their backyard. Things like that. So it doesn't necessarily change the annexation discussion, but there are some rules that dictate wastewater and where that wastewater goes.
And to point out, some of our wastewater problems we have is not with the sewage itself, it's with the storm runoff is getting into our sewer system, causing problems for our sewage treatment. So we're working on the storm runoff that is trying to find out where that's getting into the sewer system and keep that from happening. We've actually got a very robust sewer plant and sewer system at this time. There are just some places in town where the sewer lines are in decay due to the age. So we're working through treating those and trying to rehab them.
Every town in this state has the exact same issue. Plainfield's got it. Indianapolis has a terrible problem. They've spent billions of dollars to combat the same issue. I traveled the state before I started working for AA Septic, working on city sewer systems, and I've never seen one that's 100%. We'll never have this one 100%.
Anyone else want to ask a question or voice a concern?
I would just like to say something as a volunteer on the planning committee. I didn't read through all the chatter comments because no one needs to read through that. A lot of that was speculation and insulting and no one on the panel here, none of us would ever try to not be forthcoming. This was just merely a forum so we could address some of your concerns, and no one's trying, as Doug said,
fear mongering. It's just going to happen regardless of whether we want it to or not. Eventually, it most likely, it's pretty imminent that it will happen. And so we all love that it's a small town and we're trying to just create that little ring and like they were speaking about earlier, we have people who've already annexed part of the contiguous property and they're getting the tax dollars for it, but the kids are going to our school. Or, that's kind of one of the issues that we're hoping to abate and some of the concerns that we're hoping to address. So we are not trying to keep anything from anyone or be shady in any way. We're just volunteers trying to volunteer our time and listen and serve our purpose. And the whole time I've been on it, we have been talking about the possibility of how to address the forum of annexation. Nothing is forced, nothing is meant to be hidden or there's no quiet agenda. We're just merely trying to navigate through this and do it properly and see if it's even something that anyone's interested in. And like Doug said and Dave said, unfortunately there are laws that are allowing Plainfield to kind of supersede some of those avenues that we have to go through. So I'm not sure why, because I'm not super well read on all the minutia of the municipalities, but I do know that we're trying to go through it and navigate it properly and completely in a forthcoming manner. And thanks for coming tonight.
Yes, thank you everybody for being here and for sharing information. I mean, the Planning Commission meets every month on the first Tuesday. You're always welcome. Again, we record our meetings and put them on YouTube, so you're always got the ability to check those out, see what we're talking about.
Here? I'm sorry.
Yes, we
Okay.
meet in this room.
Thank you.
And we meet at 6 o'clock. I know the town council meets at 7, but we meet at 6. There are times when we talk about our comprehensive plan. There are times when we, have to deal with building permit issues or those kinds of things. But you're always welcome to come and participate in the meetings. If after you go home tonight, you think, oh, I should have brought this up about annexation, come back next month and say, hey, I forgot to say this. I mean, we're here willing to listen. We're not ever going to say, go away, okay? That's not how we work. I mean, we're all trying to be in this together. And if nothing ever happens, if we don't annex a single other property, we're still going to be here doing the best we can with what we've got. So
There is a FAQ button on the town's website, and so I've started adding everything that was here. I've added to that FAQ button, and so we'll add more information on that FAQ button as we have it to give out. So just go to that for information. And
all right.
Are we gonna have a follow-up, or is that?
A follow-up meeting?
Yeah.
Every month, the first
Okay.
Tuesday of every month.
Okay.
We will have a follow-up meeting. All right, any other points that we need to bring up from Planning Commission members or BZA members? Okay, all right, then I think at 7:23, it's time for us to adjourn. Again, don't hesitate to reach out if there are other questions or concerns that come up. So I will call this meeting adjourned.